This is the worst thing to happen to cats since dogs, right?
Hey guys, I'm back. Welcome back to the channel. So Netflix has a new adult animated comedy out, Alley Cats, created by Ricky Gervais, and the discussion surrounding this show has been interesting. People are talking about it as if it is the worst thing to happen to television since like Game of Thrones season 8 or something. The reviews for it are absolutely scathing. The Telegraph gave it a 0-star review, and right now on Rotten Tomatoes it is at a 20% critic rating. Naturally, with all of this, I wanted to check out this show for myself and, really just see if it is as bad as people are making it out to be. It's extremely short, only 6 episodes at 15 minutes each, so I figured it's not going to take up too much of my time. I want to give it a try to see if it is what people are describing it as being, or if I disagree with the general consensus. Now, point of reference, I'm not really familiar with Ricky Gervais. I watched some of his 2023 Netflix stand-up special, Ricky Gervais Armageddon, which I remember almost nothing about, and I've of course seen his famous 2020 Golden Globes monologue, but apart from that, I haven't seen anything that he's done. I haven't watched any of his work, so I didn't go into this with any bias or anything, but I was not expecting great things, to say the absolute least, because of, again, the next level atrocious reviews. But the reviews being that bad are really why I was quite surprised watching this show. I was surprised at just how aggressively this show lived up to its negative reviews. I found it hard to imagine this show being as much of a failure as people were saying it was, but it truly is that disastrous. There are a couple things I kind of liked about it, which I'll talk about those before getting into the negatives here. But the first thing I will say is that I didn't expect this going into it, but this season it has like something of a story, and the episodes are connected, loosely connected, but I didn't expect that to be the case. It's a simple story of these cats are trying to get a lost kitten back to her home, and it's not a particularly good story, and it all ends in the most predictable way imaginable, but I didn't expect that to be the case, so at least there was a little bit of effort put into it on that level. Also, Diane Morgan is a voice actor here. It's nice to have her here. She does a pretty good job. Can't complain about Diane Morgan being a voice actor in this show. And also in terms of the animation and the art style, it looks very ugly, and it looks like there wasn't a lot of effort put into the animation, but I do think that the somewhat hideous art style does complement the tone of the show quite nicely. It matches it pretty well. I thought that was like that's something that I kind of appreciated about it. And indeed, this show is this season at least. I don't know if they will do any more of this, but this season, and as the show is right now, it's very short, only 6 episodes, 15 minutes each, as I said, and definitely cannot complain about that. It doesn't take too much of your time, but the incredibly short total runtime doesn't make the show any less difficult to get through. Of course, an important thing to talk about with this comedy show is how well it works on a comedic level. This show is actually mind-bogglingly unfunny. People have described it as feeling like you're listening to a podcast where Ricky Gervais is just bantering with his mates in a way that isn't engaging or pleasant for the viewer, and that is a very accurate thing to say. It's a very, very good way of putting it. It does just feel like you are listening to a joyless podcast, joyless for the listener, where Ricky Gervais is just like saying stuff with his mates on there and just bantering in the most vulgar and excessively crude way imaginable. What it feels like is you're watching a group of teenage friends just obnoxiously making the most shocking and explicit comments they can about everything just to get like a quick laugh out of each other. But that's not what's happening here. You're not watching a group of teenage friends. You're watching characters in a comedy show made by an experienced and famous 65-year-old comedian. It's actually confusing that this show ended up the way it did when you think about the fact that it was made by someone who is so popular in the world of comedy. There are so many desperate attempts in this show to be shocking and offensive, none of which end up being either of those two things. People have talked about the fact that the joke in this show is that cats are being loud and swearing and saying the C word, and surprisingly that is the case. Like, you wouldn't expect that to be that to genuinely be how it is, but that pretty much is as deep as the comedy gets. There's absolutely no sense of comedic timing in any of this show, and the jokes are are incredibly lazy. Like I had to record this off my TV because I couldn't find a clip of it. But this is the first joke in the show.
Hey guys, what are you up to? Ow! What was that for? What? Why did you swipe me in the face? I'm a cat. That's what cats do. Yeah, but why? Don't know. It's just what I do. That's what you do? Yeah. Right. I just do stuff.
Gives you an idea of how truly basic this show is on a comedy level. I also don't know if Ricky Gervais has some weird obsession with anal penetration and assholes, but there are an awful lot of jokes about those topics in this show. So overall, it's about as funny as stepping on a bear trap. But what about the characters, the titular alley cats themselves? They're incredibly one-dimensional and basic. You have Gus, who is loud and sweary and fat, but, secretly has a heart. You have Ponce, who is posh and has an owner. You have Fang, who is big and sweary, and he likes fighting. That's about it. You have Puke, who, as his name suggests, is nasty and disgusting. You have Olive, who is stupid. You have Lara, who is a generic love interest, and then you have Kitten, who is just a scared, lost kitten, and that's it really. That's kind of that's what you get with the characters. That's as deep as it gets. This is also a show that tries to have heart, and it tries to do something deeper than just be funny. It looks at themes of life and death a lot more than you would expect, and there are several attempts at being sweet and emotional, which don't work because it's so difficult to get invested in what's going on or engage with the comedy. Those moments just don't do anything. There are also a couple of needle drops of popular songs which are quite annoying. They released a clip of this, but there's a montage where There Is a Light That Never Goes Out plays, and they actually have a double-decker bus and then a 10-ton truck nearly hit the characters, and I just thought I'd point that out because I could not believe that was in a show in 2026, but here we are. Overall, Alley Cats is, not only do I think it's horrible, I think it's surprisingly horrible, just because of the fact that Ricky Gervais made it. Someone who, people like him and think he's funny, and he's been doing this for so long, it just doesn't make any sense how he can put something like this out. I really don't know what went wrong here, but everything went wrong. Like, it's absolutely horrendous. Me personally, I would give it a 2.5 out of 10. Of course, if you haven't watched this show yet and you are interested in checking it out, if you want to watch it, obviously, see for yourself, check it out. You may feel differently, but me personally, I absolutely agree with the general consensus for this show. Those are just my personal thoughts on Alley Cats. Thank you very much for watching this, this little review of this show. If you did enjoy, please do remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe if you want to. If you have seen this show, feel free to let me know your thoughts on it in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, bye bye.